My friend's girlfriend damaged his car to get revenge on him for cheating but blamed it on me instead. Now he won't listen to me and wants to sue me for $4,000. I, 25M, had been friends with Michael, 26M, since our freshman year of high school. We met during soccer tryouts where we both didn't make the team but ended up laughing about it. That began a friendship that lasted through high school, college, and beyond. Even when we went to different colleges, we stayed in touch through regular calls and gaming sessions. Michael started dating Julia, 23F, about 2 years ago. He met her at his workplace. She was an intern in a different department. From the beginning, something felt off about her. She had this way of twisting situations to make herself look like a victim. Like when she accidentally spilled wine on my laptop at a party, she somehow turned it around and blamed me for putting my laptop in her way. Michael paid for the repairs, and I let it go because he seemed really happy with her. Julia also had this habit of inserting herself into our friendship. If Michael and I planned a gaming night, she'd show up unannounced. When we tried to talk about old memories, she'd interrupt with her own stories. I started seeing Michael less and less, but whenever I mentioned this to our other friends, they said I was just jealous of his relationship. Last month, I had an important professional certification exam in a city about 100 miles away. This certification would help me advance in my career as a software developer. My car had been giving trouble for weeks, and finally, the transmission died completely 3 days before the exam. The repair shop said it would take at least a week to fix. I called Michael in panic mode. The exam had a strict schedule, and rescheduling would mean waiting another 6 months. Michael immediately offered his car, a 2020 Honda Civic he had bought new and babied since day one. He knew how important this exam was for me, and that's the kind of friend he had always been. The problem started when Julia found out about the arrangement. She called me saying she needed to do some shopping in that city and would come along. I tried to explain that I needed to focus on the exam and would be studying during the drive, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. Michael said it might be good to have her along since she knew the city well. The drive there was painful. Julia complained about everything: my choice of music, the temperature, my driving speed. According to her, I was either driving too fast and scaring her, or too slow and wasting her time. I tried to study my materials during breaks, but she kept trying to make conversation about random topics. We reached the city around 7 p.m. on Friday. I had booked a hotel near the exam center to avoid any transportation issues in the morning. Julia mentioned she would stay with her cousin who lived there. When I handed her the car keys, I specifically told her I needed the car by 7 a.m. sharp for my exam. She rolled her eyes and said I was being too uptight about everything. The exam was scheduled for 8 a.m. Saturday. I tried calling Julia from 6:30 a.m. but she wouldn't answer. I called Michael but he said she wasn't answering his calls either. I ended up taking an expensive cab to make it in time for the exam. Throughout the 3-hour exam, my phone kept buzzing with texts from Michael asking about Julia. When I finally got through to her around 2 p.m., she sounded strange, her words were slurred and she seemed confused. She agreed to bring the car to my hotel. When she arrived, my heart sank. The front bumper was severely damaged, the right headlight was broken, and there were deep scratches along the passenger side. Before I could properly inspect the damage or ask what happened, she threw the keys at me and stormed off. I immediately called Michael to tell him about the damage. He exploded the moment I mentioned his car was damaged. He wouldn't let me explain, kept shouting about how I had betrayed his trust by letting Julia drive. I tried telling him I never gave her permission to drive, but he said I was lying to save myself. I offered to split the repair costs even though I knew I wasn't at fault. The damages looked like they would cost at least $4,000 to fix properly. Michael refused my offer, saying I needed to pay the full amount since the car was my responsibility when the damage occurred. Our friend group got divided over this. Some friends like Jack, 25M, and Sarah, 24F, who had witnessed Julia's manipulative behavior before, supported me. Others sided with Michael, saying I was trying to blame an innocent girl for my irresponsible behavior. A few tried to stay neutral but eventually stopped talking to me when Michael and Julia started posting about the incident on social media. I have security camera footage from my hotel showing I was there during the time the accident must have occurred. I even have my exam records and supervisor's statement proving I was in the exam hall. But Michael refuses to look at any evidence. He says I could have given Julia permission before going to the hotel. The worst part is seeing how Julia is playing the victim. She keeps changing her story, first claiming she never drove the car, then saying I begged her to drive because I was too tired, then changing it again to say I forced her to drive. Each version gets more dramatic and garners more sympathy from people who don't know the full story. This incident has shown me how quickly people can turn against you. Michael and I had been friends for over a decade. We helped each other through tough times, celebrated successes together, and knew each other's families. Now he won't even look at the evidence that could prove my innocence because he's chosen to believe his girlfriend of 2 years over our long friendship. I've lost sleep over this, my work is suffering, and I'm constantly anxious about what Julia might claim next. I keep replaying that day in my head, wondering if I could have done anything differently. Should I have been firmer in refusing to let Julia come along? Should I have kept the keys with me somehow? But I know this isn't my fault. I just wish Michael would realize that too before this situation destroys more than just our friendship. Update 1. The situation has gotten drastically worse. Yesterday morning, I received a formal legal notice from Michael's lawyer. The letter demanded I pay $4,000 in damages within 30 days or face legal action. According to the lawyer, since I borrowed the car, I was responsible for any damage during that period regardless of who was driving. They claim I was negligent in letting an unauthorized person, Julia, drive the car. I nearly threw up reading that letter. As a grad student, I live mostly on my teaching assistant stipend, which barely covers rent and basic expenses. I have some savings, but they're for my student loan payments. A lawsuit would not only drain me financially but could seriously impact my future career prospects. My parents called last night after I told them about the notice. They suggested taking a loan to pay it off and avoid legal troubles. My dad even offered to use his retirement savings. I appreciate their support but refused. Taking on debt or making my parents suffer for something I didn't do feels wrong. I tried one last attempt to get to the truth by messaging Julia's cousin, Emma, who she stayed with that night. I politely asked if she remembered what time Julia came home or if she noticed any damage to the car. Emma immediately blocked me and posted screenshots of our conversation on Instagram, twisting it to make it look like I was harassing her. Julia then made multiple posts about how I was stalking her family members and trying to intimidate them into lying for me. Things got even worse 2 days ago when Michael showed up at the university department where I work as a teacher's assistant. He started yelling in the hallway about how I betrayed his trust and ruined his prized possession. My students were walking in for office hours and witnessed everything. My coworkers had to intervene and threatened to call security before he would leave. My department head, Dr. Roberts, pulled me aside afterward. He was sympathetic but warned me that any more disruptions could affect my TA position. I need this job for my tuition waiver, losing it would mean dropping out of my program. I've started taking different routes to my office and checking the hallway before leaving rooms. The deadline on the legal notice keeps looming over me like a dark cloud. I can't sleep properly anymore. Every phone notification makes my heart race, thinking it's Michael or his lawyer. I've started avoiding places where I might run into Michael or Julia. This means skipping study groups and social events, which is affecting my grades. I failed 2 important assignments this week because I couldn't focus. Most of our mutual friends have now completely distanced themselves. Even Sarah, who initially supported me, texted saying she needs to stay neutral because she doesn't want to get involved in legal matters. Only my roommate Jack still firmly believes me. He was there when I was preparing for the exam and knows how much it meant to me. He says Julia's story doesn't add up, especially since she keeps changing details. Julia's behavior has become increasingly erratic. She posts cryptic messages about karma coming for liars and the truth always surfaces. Last week, she showed up at the campus coffee shop where I usually study. When I walked in, not knowing she was there, she created a scene accusing me of stalking her. Thankfully, the owner, Mr. Chen, knows me as a regular customer. He checked the security cameras which showed Julia arrived after seeing my car in the parking lot. I consulted my friend Tom, who's a junior lawyer. He reviewed the case and said while Michael's legal claims aren't very strong, defending myself would cost $3,000 to $5,000 in legal fees alone. He suggested trying mediation first to avoid court costs. I messaged Michael proposing this solution, but he responded saying he won't negotiate with someone who throws innocent people under the bus. Julia seems to be thriving on this drama. Her social media followers have doubled since this started. She posts daily updates about being a victim of false accusations and gets hundreds of supportive comments. Meanwhile, I'm losing everything: sleep, friends, grades, and potentially my career. Yesterday, I overheard some students in my department discussing how I destroyed someone's car and refused to take responsibility. Apparently, Julia has been telling her version to anyone who will listen, including people in my department. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare where everyone believes lies about me and I can't do anything to prove my innocence. I've started keeping a detailed record of everything: screenshots of Julia's changing stories, statements from the hotel staff, my exam records, security camera footage. Tom says this documentation might help if we go to court, but it feels useless when Michael refuses to even look at any evidence. The 30-day deadline is getting closer and I'm terrified. I can't afford to pay $4,000, but I also can't afford to defend myself in court. My parents keep insisting they'll help, but they're already struggling with my sister's ongoing medical treatments. Adding my legal troubles to their burden would be selfish. This situation has really shown people's true colors. People I thought were close friends now cross the street when they see me coming. The worst part is losing Michael's friendship over these lies. We've been through so much together: his parents' divorce, my mom's cancer battle, countless celebrations and hard times. Now he won't even give me a chance to prove my innocence because he'd rather believe his girlfriend's constantly changing stories. Update 2. Everything changed yesterday in a way I never expected. I received a call from Max, 24M, who's close friends with Julia's cousin Emma. He sounded nervous and insisted on meeting immediately. Given everything that's happened, I was hesitant, thinking it might be another setup by Julia. Max suggested meeting at a busy Starbucks near campus, which made me feel safer. I arrived early and chose a table with a clear view of both exits, a habit I've developed since this mess started. Max showed up looking genuinely troubled. He ordered coffee for both of us and took out his phone. What he showed me turned my world upside down. Max had screenshots from their friend group chat where Julia had been bragging about her perfect revenge on Michael. It turned out Michael had cheated on her 6 months ago with a coworker at a company event. They had worked through it and stayed together, but Julia never really forgave him. She had been planning her revenge for months. According to the screenshots, Julia deliberately damaged Michael's car that day. She knew how much he loved that car. He had worked 2 jobs during college to save up for it. She chose to blame me because she knew Michael would believe her over anyone else, especially since she had spent 2 years subtly turning him against me. The screenshots showed Julia laughing about how easy it was to manipulate everyone. She even joked about making me pay for damages that cost way less than $4,000 to fix. Max said he had been feeling guilty seeing how the situation was affecting my life, especially after hearing about the legal notice. Without wasting any time, I saved copies of everything and headed to Michael's apartment. Julia was there too, which actually worked out perfectly. The moment she saw Max with me, her face lost all color. She tried to grab her phone, probably to delete the chat evidence, but it was too late. I silently showed Michael the screenshots. Julia tried her usual manipulation tactics at first, claiming the screenshots were fake. But when Max started pulling up more evidence, including voice messages where she bragged about her plan, she broke down. She admitted everything, screaming about how Michael deserved it for cheating. Michael stood there, completely shocked, as Julia revealed more details. She had intentionally scraped the car against a concrete barrier multiple times to increase the damage. She had even considered reporting the car stolen but decided this plan would hurt both Michael and me more. The next few hours were intense. Julia switched between crying, screaming, and threatening everyone. She tried to paint herself as the victim of Michael's cheating, but Max had evidence of her bragging about how she had finally gotten even. When Michael told her they were done, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell and shattered. Within hours, Julia was on social media trying to control the narrative. But this time, Max and several others who had witnessed her bragging stepped forward with proof. Our mutual friends who had seen the evidence started reaching out to me, apologizing for not believing me. The cafe owner, Mr. Chen, even posted about banning Julia permanently after learning the full story. Max later told me this wasn't Julia's first revenge scheme. At her previous college, she had pulled similar stunts, which was partly why she transferred. She had managed to keep these stories hidden from everyone in our circle. Max showed me more screenshots where Julia had bragged about other revenge plots, but this was the first time she had targeted an innocent person. Michael withdrew the legal notice immediately and has been trying to contact me since then. My phone is flooded with his messages apologizing and asking to meet. Our mutual friends are also sending apologies, saying they should have known better than to doubt me after so many years of friendship. The truth is finally out, but I don't feel as relieved as I thought I would. Watching Michael realize how badly he had messed up didn't give me any satisfaction. If anything, it made me sad to see how one person's lies had managed to destroy so many relationships. Right now, I'm taking time to process everything. Max has become an unexpected friend through all this. He's one of the few people who did the right thing despite having nothing to gain from it. As for Michael and the others, I'm not sure if those relationships can ever be repaired. Update 3. These past 2 months have been a period of major changes. Julia tried her best to spin the story in her favor again, but it backfired when more people from her past came forward with similar stories of manipulation and revenge schemes. The university started an investigation into her pattern of harassment, and she eventually withdrew from her program. Last I heard, she moved back to her hometown in Oregon. Michael has been persistent in trying to make amends. He showed up at my apartment multiple times with apologies and different peace offerings. He even offered to pay for therapy sessions, saying he felt guilty about the anxiety and stress I went through. While I appreciated the gesture, I declined. Some betrayals can't be fixed with money or apologies. Watching my best friend of 15 years believe the worst about me without even considering my side showed me what he really thought of our friendship. The friend group tried hard to go back to normal. They organized game nights, movie marathons, and even a camping trip like we used to do. I attended one game night but left early. It felt suffocating watching them joke and laugh like nothing had happened. These were the same people who had blocked me on social media, spread rumors about me, and some even testified against me in written statements for Michael's lawyer. Max turned out to be one of the few good things to come out of this mess. We meet for coffee regularly now and talk about normal stuff, movies, games, his new job. He never tries to push me to reconcile with the others or bring up the drama. It's refreshing to have a friendship that isn't tainted by what happened. The final repair bill for Michael's car came to $5,200, even more than he had demanded from me. Julia had apparently done more damage than initially visible. Michael tried to give me the $4,000 he had demanded, plus extra for my pain and suffering as he put it. I told him to donate it to the student mental health center instead. I moved to a different apartment on the other side of campus. The old place had too many memories of sleepless nights spent worrying about the lawsuit and potential financial ruin. My grades have improved significantly since moving. Turns out not being constantly stressed about losing everything helps with studying. Some of our mutual friends have suggested I should forgive Michael since he was also Julia's victim. They say she manipulated everyone and I shouldn't hold it against him. Maybe they have a point, but I can't forget how quickly he discarded our years of friendship. Trust, once broken, is hard to repair, especially when the person chose to break it repeatedly over 2 months despite having multiple chances to listen to the truth. I'm doing much better now. I'm focused on graduating next semester and have already received 2 job offers. This experience taught me valuable lessons about friendship and loyalty. It showed me that sometimes losing people who don't trust you is better than keeping them in your life. As for Michael, he still texts occasionally. Yesterday he sent a long message about missing our friendship and wanting to make things right. I haven't responded. Some relationships aren't meant to be fixed, they're meant to be lessons. And this lesson cost him a 15-year friendship.